Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome to Newcastle United's training ground this morning, where of course Newcastle preparing for their trip to London tomorrow ahead of Sunday's match against Chelsea, which of course you can see live on Sky Sports, the first of a double header. Of course, Chelsea visit Newcastle on Wednesday night as well. Two massive matches in Newcastle's season, given the last couple of results, and of course followed hot on the heels by the visit of Arsenal as well. So not the fixtures Newcastle wanted, you would suggest, after the defeat to Brighton last weekend, but that's the fixture list and they just have to get on with things. And it was nice to hear some bullish talk, I think, from Eddie Howe in his news conference this morning, I think regarding his current squad as much as anything else. And I was quite happy to hear him say what he did this morning, because I feel like it's needed to be said, and it's something I've been thinking myself over the last week or so. So much talk around the futures of Newcastle's big name players, and by that I mean Anthony Gordon, Alexander Isak and Bruno Guimaraes. Newcastle's three biggest name players, the three players who hold the biggest value in terms of the transfer market, and if Newcastle were to sell, the three players that Newcastle could command the biggest transfer fees for. Now, we all saw that Anthony Gordon signed a new extended contract during the week. According to the club and Eddie Howe, it means that it'll make him more secure, more happy, and allow him to concentrate on his work here at Newcastle. I'll get onto that in a sec. We then talk about Bruno Guimaraes, and yes, he's been made the captain. Perhaps it's not gone so well for him from the start as captain, but the reason he was made captain, Eddie Howe said at the time, was to ensure that he felt part of the project here, to give him the added responsibility, and I think probably just to ward off any distractions that there's interest in him from other clubs, which of course we know about, like is the situation with Gordon as well. The third player on the list, Alexander Isak. Multiple reports this week, some saying contract talks are underway over an extension, other reports saying that no talks are underway, and any talks that took place earlier this year have been put on hold. But again, this is a player with 3.5 years, nearly 4 years left on his contract. Why are we talking about these players signing new extended contracts when, for me, there's a job to do on the pitch right now? They've got plenty of time on their contracts. I understand the Gordon one to an extent, to bring him in line with the club's highest earners, but Alexander Isak is already one of the club's highest earners. Bruno Guimaraes, of course, is as well. And for me, look, call me old school, but I don't think these players should need a new improved contract to make them content, to make them happy, to make them show their best stuff on the pitch. It's been said by Anthony Gordon, it's been said by Bruno, it's probably been understood, it's probably been thought by Isak and communicated through his representatives, that these players want the club want Newcastle to show their ambition, to show that they want to win trophies, to show they can qualify for Europe before they commit their futures to the club. But as Eddie Howe said today, and I'll go back to, I'm glad that he said that today, it's a two-way thing. It's not all about the club proving to them and giving them extra money to make them happy and make them content. It's about the players proving their worth by doing it on the pitch. And I have to say, when you look at those three players, not just those three, I think most players would agree that they've not got off to the best of starts, and standards haven't been as high as they have been over the last year or two. When you look at those three, at times it hasn't been great. Isak's looked sluggish. I know he's had an injury, he's only scored one goal. Anthony Gordon's body language hasn't looked great at all times. I know he came back from the Euros and wasn't 100% fit, but I just felt in those first couple of games he looked like his head wasn't on it, and perhaps his head had been turned by the interest from Liverpool and the talks with Liverpool that Newcastle held in the summer. And Eddie Howe admitted that today as such. He said that there has been distractions, and hopefully this puts all that noise and speculation to bed. He said that, look, he has been affected by a number of things this summer, and so too, he said, are a number of his players, for multiple reasons. He said that it's his job now as manager to get the harmony back. So Eddie Howe admitting that there's essentially been disharmony this summer involving his players. It's something we've all thought, but probably something we've not wanted to say. But reading between the lines, looking at the body language, looking at Newcastle's, those players' performances and others, you would suggest that perhaps things haven't been right. And you can understand players who are frustrated that the club is perhaps standing still, but you don't down tools. You don't take your foot off the gas. You don't not play through injury. You don't show frustration. You don't. You're still getting paid big money by this football club. Bruno Guimaraes, one of the top earners, if not the top earner. Anthony Gordon up in line with him now. Alexander Isak as well. They've all got long contracts. Isak's still got 3.5 years left in his deal. There's no need for him to sit down and thrash out a new deal. And by all accounts, he doesn't feel he needs to do that just yet, because he wants to keep his options open and wants to see where the club is going to be in a year or 2 years' time. I get that. But don't let that take away from your performances on the pitch. And I thought it was really interesting today that, Eddie Howe's never really said anything like that before. And he said, look, it's a two-way thing. The challenge has to get thrown back. Yes, the club need to show the players' ambition as to where they want to be and where they're going. And I think we'll all agree it's stalled a little bit at the start of this season due to the poor recruitment or the lack of recruitment in the summer. But it's really up to the players to get themselves into a position where they have Newcastle playing at their best, because we all know a Newcastle United with those three players at their best is a really hot prospect, a difficult prospect for any other club to contend with. And just looking at recent performances, I'd say all three of Bruno, Isak and Gordon have not been at their best, and it's not helped the project. So don't moan, don't sulk, don't show poor body language in your performances. Get out there, knuckle down, show what got you into this position in the first place, and the rest will take care of itself. If a club sees that, they will come in, they'll offer big money, and you will go if you want to go. But there's no point in showing your frustration on the pitch by perhaps not playing as well as you can be. Now, I'm not blaming it all on that. Isak's had his injury problems. Gordon came back having had no pre-season, not up to speed, not fully cooked. And Bruno, as we know, played a lot of games last season and was away with Brazil in the Copa America. So they all have differing reasons for being not quite at it at the start of the season. But I think we all agree, watching games, the body language at times from those players and others hasn't been great. And Eddie Howe said today that the harmony, he needs to get back. He said for a multitude of reasons over the summer, they've not got off, the start of the season hasn't felt like it has in previous seasons within the squad, which I thought was a very big admission from him today. So I could stand here for hours and talk about the Isak situation. Eddie Howe's pretty much said that they need to be careful with contract renewals, because by just renewing anyone's contract and giving them huge money, they could then put themselves into difficulty with PSR, and it would mean they couldn't attract the players they want to attract to the club moving forward, which was a big admission. But for me, the big thing today was this message almost to the players. It felt like a message to say, look guys, knuckle down, show us what you're all about. We love you, we think you're great players, we want you back to your best, but the talking needs to be done on the pitch. Now, Eddie Howe feels that will be the case now with Gordon. It shouldn't take a new contract to do that, in my opinion, but he feels it will put all that to bed. It's a completely different industry to what I work in. It would make no difference to me whether you were looking for a pay rise or whatever. You would just need to work as hard as you normally do. So he said that with Gordon. The thing with Isak is his situation isn't sorted out, but by all accounts Isak is quite happy to leave that now, and he just needs to get his fitness back. And then the third one is Bruno, and yes, Bruno's got the captaincy, and I think by all accounts he's needed that extra responsibility, but he shouldn't need that responsibility. He knew he was a major player anyway, he knew he was a huge part of it, and it just feels like Eddie's doing things to try and get these three players into the right headspace, to give 100%, to get their performances back to last season and the season before. But for me, as professional players, all earning £100,000 plus per week, you should be doing that anyway. You shouldn't need a pay rise, you shouldn't need a captain's armband, you shouldn't need these things. That you should be putting everything into the club, because if you want to play Champions League football, if you want to win trophies, you need to do it yourself. And don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until you're 10, 12, 15 games into the season until you start giving 110%. I'm not saying they're not giving 100%, but what I'm saying is it's been a little bit flat than it has been in recent years, and Eddie Howe alluded to that. He said the season within the squad it's not felt the same. So talking around the houses a little bit now, but what I'm basically saying is and it's something I've thought for a good couple of weeks now, and I think a lot of you guys will agree with that, and agree with this, and hopefully so. These are professional footballers earning big money. Knuckle down and do it yourself. You don't have to wait in a new contract. You don't have to need a captain's armband. You just need to make sure that you do your bit, and the rest will take care of itself. And how, again, alluded to that and underlined that this morning. So let's see if the message gets across. But I think it just shows the power of footballers these days, and you know, the money that's involved. And sometimes in some ways it can be a sad indictment of the game. I'm not saying these guys are bad characters. I think they're all absolutely brilliant characters. But you know, let's just do what you do on the pitch, and the rest will take care of itself. So that's my thoughts for today. Quite a bit of injury news, which you'll know already. Callum Wilson out for another 3 weeks, broke down in training. He says it's not an injury, it's just a bit of tightness, but really a real blow for Wilson, because it looked like he was going to get back. A blow for you guys, because Isak's not got that competition to within the squad to compete with for the number 9. So all down to Isak again at the weekend, and then going into the Chelsea match in midweek. So that's it from me, guys. Leave your comments below. I'd imagine a number of you would agree with this. I just think as a football fan in general, and with the amount of money that's involved in the game, we need to be real, and we need to look at this and the players need to take themselves out of it and think, what is the better situation here? The better situation right now is to knuckle down, get Newcastle into a strong position, and then talk about contracts, then talk about extra responsibility, then talk about trophies and qualifying for Europe. You can't just talk about it, you need to actually go out there and do that. And I was glad that Eddie Howe said that at his news conference a couple of times this morning. Okay guys, leave your comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.